Hey folks, it's ThePatriotNurse, and in today's segment I wanted to discuss with you things that could set off shit hits the fan. The SHTF thing, why do I use that? I use that because it's the easiest way to convey an idea, which is a disaster, a major departure from our standard operating norm. I don't sit up and fantasize about, the zombies invading or anything like that. I use that acronym, SHTF, because it readily communicates an idea to a large number of people. But I want to discuss with you things that could set it off. And a lot of this is conjecture on my part. So I would encourage you to do your own research, clearly, and not believe it just because I say it, but come to your own conclusions. You have a brain, and you're watching me obviously because you value my opinion, but as a responsible human being, I expect you to come to your own. So the main things that I want to talk about here with you today are three things. One, the monetary system. Two, the Middle East instability. And three, the rise of China and the rest, in the words of Fareed Zakaria. So let's go here and first talk about the monetary system. This has gotten a decent amount of coverage, right, within the community, but also within the interwebs and alternative media. If we're going to state the obvious here, then we need to own that our monetary system is perhaps now more interconnected. The United States monetary system is perhaps more connected than it ever has been in history, and also the global financial system is far more connected and interdependent now than it has ever been. Because of this, whenever you have a major correction or a major dip in one part, the others are going to feel it. To what degree is kind of still up in the air. We don't have a precedent for this because the times that we are living in have never really existed in this level and in this scope before. It's everybody's guess. Even the brightest minds that I've talked to, they're kind of up in the air as to what's going to happen also, but we need to be direct about this. The United States debt right now is like a big adjustable rate mortgage. I want to say 1/3 of our national debt matures within the next year. Check me on that, I could be wrong, but I think I'm correct. When I was at the Money Show in Las Vegas, Peter Schiff and Axel Merck were on a panel. It was the Bulls versus Bear panel, and I had put this up on my Facebook while I was there. I was, typing in stuff live, but I had put this up. Axel Merck had stated that he believed that whenever we saw a slight economic recovery, which we are in right now, slight, mind you, and not real, I would call it a facade, that whenever we saw this slight recovery, we would have a little bit of economic growth, which would spike volatility and the bond market would collapse. Now that makes perfect sense to me, because when you have people who are getting 0.75% for keeping their money in the bank, and people who have bonds at 2 and 3%, when they start to see economic growth, they're going to think, well, why in the world am I losing money? It's a sure bet to lose money to keep it here at 2%, which doesn't even pace with inflation. If we've got economic growth, I'm going to pull it out and reinvest it. And when you have that on a large enough scale, you're going to feel some significant ripple effects. Where those ripples stop is anyone's guess, but it's coming. So we can definitely prepare for that. I mean, we are already seeing the effects of this, certainly in the price of our food, gas, travel, transportation, etc., etc. I don't buy the government's official numbers. I think the CPI is an abysmal measurement because there are certain things that are not included in the calculations. But we need to be prepared for the monetary system's major correction and possibly even collapse. When you have your money that is backed primarily by debt, that is not backed, in our case in the United States, by actual production capacity. We don't make anything. We make debt. We put greenbacks everywhere. You're going to feel its effects whenever people lose confidence in that debt note. So that could certainly precipitate it. I could go on and on about this, and I think I actually may do that. I may make a 10-minute video on the implications to average people of the collapse of the monetary system. But we're going to move on here. I want to talk about Middle East instability. Okay, people have been saying that the Middle East instability is going to elicit, or I guess precipitate, a World War III. And they've been saying this for a while. So whenever somebody brings it up, it's like, oh, that's a very tried thing. It's old and tired. Why are you bringing this, reintroducing this into the equation? Well, let me tell you why. There's a few things that have shifted majorly in the past 2 years. I'm thinking primarily first of the Arab Spring. when you're looking at regional instability and certainly the relations with Israel and its surrounding neighbors, there have been some fundamental power shifts that have happened. Egypt used to be a peaceful neighbor. Well, since Anwar Sadat signed the World Treaty, Israel got along pretty decently with Egypt. You had some skirmishes around the border every now and then, but we've had a fundamental shift since the election of the Muslim Brotherhood-backed president. And when you have massive shifts like that, fundamental ideological shifts, mind you, that are going to affect interplay between the nations, you better watch out. Now that's Egypt, okay? When you look at Israel's surrounding neighbors, there's been major volatility as well. There's stuff happening in Jordan right now that is not getting reported because we have an association with Jordan in the United States. Syria is a big, big deal, y'all. What a lot of people perhaps are not familiar with, excepting those, of course, who've been around longer than I have, Syria is a major outpost for the Soviets. Whenever Syria has issues going on there, we want to try, in the United States, we want to try and control them because they're a Soviet outpost. The Soviets use them to go back and forth and transport a whole lot of stuff, not the least of which is chemical and some nuclear weapons. So whenever you have regional instability in Syria, it's going to bleed over and it's going to cause conflict on the northern borders with Israel. It's also going to cause conflict with Lebanon, Lebanese-backed Hezbollah, because Hezbollah right now is backing Bashar al-Assad. The rebels, we are arming them right now, and this is very troublesome, okay? Because the rebels are not, the Syrian rebels, the ones that are fighting Bashar al-Assad, they are not a unilateral entity, okay? They're not this homogenous group of people that have a clearly defined ideal. Basically, they're getting together because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You have people that are secular and you have people that are very extreme jihadists. So when we are sending weapons to these people, it's going to empower them and it's only going to increase volatility and regional instability. And because of that, it could very easily precipitate a regional war. If there is a regional war there, one of the first things that we're going to feel in the United States is the oil prices. Not because it's necessarily a fair market, because everybody knows OPEC is a cartel, but you will see far-reaching implications into major regional instability, including war in the Middle East. If that starts, if the oil part starts here, people are going to lose confidence in the United States. Consumers are going to lose confidence. They don't want to go out and buy stuff because if they're spending so much money on gas, why are they going to spend money on anything else if you buy the consumption-driven economic principle? And that could very easily segue into the beginning of the second round of monetary crisis. And then the third one is, the third point that I want to touch on here is China rising and really the rise of the West. If you've read Fareed Zakaria's book called The Post-American World, which I actually do recommend, it's an older book, but the things that he talked about actually are coming to pass for many reasons that I won't go into. But we have gotten used to this idea of American exceptionalism. And I'm a fan of that because clearly I'm an American and I believe we got a darn good thing going here. Freedom and liberty, imagine that. Free markets would be really nice. I don't know if we're ever going to return to that. But we need to understand that there is a hunger, especially in the East. There is a vivacity in the young people to learn English, to educate themselves, to grab the bars of education and pull themselves up out of poverty. Having been there, I love the people of the East. I love the Chinese people. I love Southeast Asian people. I've worked with them. I consider them very, very kind people, and I count some of them my dear friends. But we need to understand here is that while we in America have become complacent and expected the government to take care of us, people in the East are saying, wow, I can take ownership for my own destiny. I can pull myself up out of this generational, squalor and oppression that I've lived in. Well, heck yeah, I'm going to do it. And because of that, they have much more of a drive, honestly, than we do in America, especially in the youth. Being someone in the category under the age of 30, I can tell you that, honestly, I don't share a lot in common with people in my age bracket because of this issue in particular, and also of the viewpoint of the Constitution and of inalienable rights. So when you're looking at things that could potentially set off this cascade of global descent. These are just 3 of them, and I could spend forever and ever talking with you about them, but I'm going to try and limit it for the sake of brevity. But I wanted to share with you my thoughts. I get a lot of people who ask me this, and I wanted to address it at least in some minimal way. So, if you enjoyed the video today, please subscribe to me, like me on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter. Also, if you're interested in learning more about medical preparedness, I've got a whole bunch of classes coming up. Medical Prep 101 and 201 are probably coming to a town near you. Denver, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Kansas City, White Plains, New York, Yakima, Las Vegas, Winston-Salem, Richmond, Lakeland, Florida, Knoxville, Tennessee. I got a whole bunch of places I'm going to. So check it out at the website, www.ThePatriotNurse.com. Look at the classes, the course description, and register today. I hope it was helpful for y'all. And for now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later.